here today with one and only Mr. Neil Fallon from Almighty Clutch. Hello.
Hi there, how are you go?
I must say, your music, are a big inspiration for me, for my work. You're my heroes as a band, as a people. Do you have some heroes personally, people that inspire you, that are still somewhere in your imagination, inspiring you?
Oh, well, first, thanks for saying that. That's very flattering. I mean, to know that people enjoy our music is why we do this. I guess creatively, one of my heroes is, as far as lyric writing goes, is Tom Waits. He's up there from someone who I look to as inspiration on storytelling. But I also, as far as kind of like work ethic goes, I think Neil Young is another hero of mine because he's done the same thing the way he's wanted to do it since the mid '60s, and he's the same person and hasn't tried to adapt fitting the taste of the times. And to me, that's very admirable.
I've read somewhere that when you're writing your lyrics, even when you're writing as a first person, you are writing not about yourself but as fictional characters, fictional events. But also I've read somewhere that Decapitation Blues is based on true events, on what you experienced. Is it true? Are you also inspired by your life?
Well, I think for years and years I never wanted to talk about my own personal life because I always thought it was pretty boring. I don't have a very drama-filled life, thankfully. But to me it's very liberating to say, well, if I can write lyrics as if they were short fiction and still use the first person, it's a lot of fun because I get to put myself mentally in situations that are unreal, and I like escapism in rock and roll, and storytelling. Getting inspiration from my own life or experiences in the past. I was always scared to do it because I didn't want it to be nostalgic or sentimental. So with Decapitation Blues, that was sort of like I had a surgery on my neck, which was true, but then I exaggerated it for the purpose of the song, and that was kind of an eye-opening approach, which I hadn't done before, and I think there'll probably be a lot of that on the next record.
So we are working currently on a new album.
Yep, we did a new song for Soundcheck, played it a couple of times. I think we'll play it tonight. We try to play these songs live as much as possible before we record them, just to put them through their paces. So hopefully the record will be out in about a year.
What could we expect from new music?
I don't know. That's the frustrating part and the fun part. Is kind of discovering where we're going. I think, we wrote Psychic Warfare not that long ago, so it'll have some similarities there. I think we've talked about maybe making it more of a live sounding record. But what that means, I don't know. I'm not really a producer person. I try to write a guitar riff or two and some lyrics, and that's my job.
Getting back to lyrics, have you ever considered to write maybe a book, science fictional, maybe just fictional, something?
I have, and I've started 1,000 times, and it's hard to get past page 2. To me, it's it's not easy, but when you write a song, if you write the chorus, that's half the song is done. And then you just got to write 3 verses, and you have the rhythm and you have rhyme that create parameters to work in. But with fiction, the blank page is so daunting and overwhelming because you can do anything. And to me, that's very intimidating. And I have jealousy, respect, and a lot of jealousy for some of my peers that have written books. I was like, wow, how did you do that? I think it takes a lot of self-discipline. I don't know if I have it, but I'm not going to quit. I'm still going to try. Every morning, well, at least at home, I take 15 minutes and try to write nonstop for 15 minutes. And a lot of times it's garbage, but sometimes that process, you end up somewhere you wouldn't if you had thought about it too much.
Have you ever thought about maybe writing something for TV series, for movies?
No, not so much. I mean, I wouldn't know how to go about doing that. I think the way I look at songs is I sometimes, when I hear the instrumental version, I close my eyes and try to visualize what movie this is, and then try to put that into words. But I think the skills that are required for script writing are probably so specialized that I would rather just try writing a short story first and not get ahead of myself.
Speaking about TV series, have you seen the last Twin Peaks, new Twin Peaks?
I have not. My wife and I decided it would be best that we watched the old Twin Peaks because it's been so long since we've seen it, and try to catch up. The TV shows nowadays, I don't watch a whole lot of TV. I'm a big fan of Better Call Saul, and there's a HBO series that came out last year called The Night Of, which is very dark and disturbing, but really well written. And that's what I like, is when TV shows don't rely on violence and love interest too much. It's dialogue and well thought out plots that I think I really have come to appreciate.
Just a month ago, you organized your own music festival, Earth Rocker Festival, and how did you come up with that idea?
Well, we had talked about doing a festival of our own locally for some time, and then we got booked at a local farm in West Virginia that typically does bluegrass and country, and they've wanted to branch out to do other things, rock and heavy metal or what have you. So it seemed like a perfect match, and we didn't, for all intents and purposes, the festival was just the touring package outdoors with camping. We didn't want to overreach and say we're going to have vendors and rides and all the things that are typical with a festival. We want to take baby steps every year to grow it, and hopefully, in a few years we have multiple stages, and we'd like to see a very diverse festival. I think the United States is still figuring out festivals. Europe has had a tradition here for decades and decades of having very diverse bills, and we really like that. And I think fans have come to appreciate that. You can only listen to one genre for so long before you get bored, a little bit bored. So we'll see. Hopefully we'll do it again next year.
That's a long time ago. You've been playing in Poland in a very diverse festival. Year ago, 2 years ago, maybe.
Last year.
Well, you've been playing, for example, in Wacken, in Metal Festival. What are differences between that alternative music festivals and metal music festivals?
Well, I think ultimately, people are there to be entertained one way or the other. I can only speak for myself. I love heavy metal, but I don't want to listen to it for 18 hours. I'd like to take a little bit of a break, and I think it behooves bands to play with different kind of styles, because if you have blinders on, you tend to forget there's a lot of other things going on out there. Having said that, I think Clutch is in kind of a unique position where we can play the Metal Fest and then do more of an alternative festival and still kind of fit in. And it helps kind of put this band's sound in a spotlight. It's easier to get lost in the mix of a all genre specific bill.
When I'm talking with musicians, I always like to ask them what are they listening to nowadays, what new music, what new albums. Are you listening something new that came up in this year, maybe in last year?
Let's see. I've been listening, I don't listen to a lot of new stuff, not because I think it's bad, but because of the internet and things like Spotify or what have you, you have access to so much from the past and a lot of obscure stuff. I'm just trying to think what I was listening to last night. I listened to some Link Ray. I like him quite a bit. There was a band that we played with. Actually, I believe they're Polish. Isn't Behemoth from Poland? His side project, Me and That Man, we played with them the other day, and I thought they were fantastic. I like that kind of. I wouldn't say it was rockabilly. It was more kind of like Nick Cave-ish, minor key. That I like that kind of music, and I was really surprised to see that. So I've been meaning to check that out since it was only 2 days ago. So I have it on my to-do list.
What do you think about that bands like Me and That Man that are playing music that has its roots in American music, in American folk, European bands playing American music?
I've been really lucky, as everyone else in the band, that we've got to tour the world and meet people in all sorts of different countries. And I've come to realize that music isn't owned by anybody, really. And if you want to talk about American music in particular, that type of music depended on people coming to North America at one point or another, whether by choice or not. You know, it has its roots in slavery. It has its roots in European folk traditions. You know, whether you could go on and on, but all these combinations just happen to occur there. So I don't think it's inappropriate from anyone to say, well, I like that, I'm going to put my own spin on it. And personally, my favorite moment of music is, you know, I guess what's commonly called the classic rock moment, where English bands started playing American blues electrified, because American bands weren't doing that because there was a stigma or even a racist aspect of not wanting to listen into the blues, and it took Europe to point out, you have something awesome going on here. And I think that's a very healthy dynamic. You know, and the same can be said for jazz. I mean, jazz has always been much more appreciated in Europe than it is in the United States, for whatever reason, I don't know. The more the merrier. Get as many people in on this as possible, and you're going to have that many more artists doing that many more new things. So that's kind of how I tend to look at it.
Okay.
I don't know if that answered your question or not, but
yeah, sure. That was my last question. Good luck on stage, and
thank you.
yeah,
Cool.
That's all.
Hey, cheers.
Thank you very much.
Goodness gracious, that'll wake you up in the morning.